Welcome to PUDLEcast, where we discuss safety, water, environment, and career development topics. Let's jump in.
Welcome to our PUDLEcast. Tori, Gruenewald, 15 years we've known each other doing this erosion control business out here in stormwater. Just want to talk a little bit today about linear projects, and we've got actually it's timely that we're having this conversation because some of these permits are changing. And I think one of the challenges that we always talk about in this is making sure that these permit regulations and stuff, they don't necessarily lend themselves to linear projects that well.
Right.
So how do we adjust on these linear projects when we're dealing with developing a SWIP or getting permitting, and linear projects have so many stakeholders in them?
I think one is just like really starting with the permit entity, really like talking with them, explaining what your project is. I find that to be super helpful in the beginning. Whoever I get that is my my point of contact, whether it be at the state or the local level, and just talk to them about what my project is, bring the maps in, explain that. I feel like that goes a long ways with kind of getting everybody on board with what the project's going to be and maybe some of the challenges early on, so I'm not like getting out there halfway with my project and they're like, oh, you didn't permit for this, we need to stop. So that's my biggest thing is I don't want to stop the project. So really having that communication with them early on, I feel like really helps.
Yeah, and having that conversation with the with your prime or whoever you're contracting with, but they then have to extend that conversation beyond, because you're going to encounter farmers, you're going to encounter cities and counties, you're crossing all these different stakeholders, and they may not understand that this project started clear off on the coast and now it's all the way to their backyard. That communication has to be sort of a bigger communication.
Yeah, we actually have several stages of notification. So before the project even starts, we let them know that there's going to be people out there. Once I can kind of get a hold of get the okay from the client that we can reach out and talk to the landowners, I'm calling them every time we're going out there. So by the time they're like almost sick of us and they're like, oh, okay, fine, it's them again. So I'd rather it happen like that than they get, they're enjoying their morning coffee and they see 5, white pickup trucks show up on their property. I'd rather not have that kind of relationship with our landowners. Right. I'd rather have them understand that we're going to be out there. We give them a schedule as best we can, and then when we get closer to construction, we really keep very close communication with them. Some people we had somebody that had a wedding that was coming up. We do not want to be in your backyard when you're on this beautiful rural property.
And the yellow lights, release the doves.
So that's definitely something that we try so hard to coordinate with the landowners because it's their property. Sure. So those notifications happening early and often, and sometimes they'll tell us we're okay. You don't need to keep calling. But I just like to keep that schedule aligned with the local issuing authority, the state on the state level, as well as with the client. Everybody needs to know what we're doing, when it's happening. It's so much easier not to have a lot of surprises. Yeah. My goal, I always say, is my main job is to make sure that the folks that are actually doing the construction don't get hassled. So whether that means from an environmental permitting or from just a communication with the folks' property we're on.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about how that relates to inspections, because you're going to have to train a lot of people, and they may have to have a little bit of PR talent and be able to have interpersonal communications and not be confrontational. But at the same time, we have these dynamics of the permit that are time sensitive, or they're time related. We have to do things once a week and within some discharge or within a certain amount of rainfall. You could have 60, 70 discharge points on a 10-mile project. So how do we sort of prioritize or justify or how do we deal with that type of dynamic when you're not going to get out there?
We make sure we're hitting those high risk areas first.
Sure.
So getting out there, sometimes the terrain is changing. So if I have a lot of spots where they're in very low, very level terrain, those aren't really going to have as high of a sediment risk. As those areas where we have heavy grade, huge slopes, things like that. So if I have an area where we did have a very hefty rain event, something over a half an inch or something, I'm going to be going and hitting those high spots first. And really looking at those, making sure our BMPs are working, and kind of setting everybody out on those to get those fixed first.
Yep.
Because I kind of feel like the ones like, oh, well, we may have some rutting on the, level terrain, but that's not really a sediment risk. That's just kind of, doesn't look very good.
Right.
So
right.
I want to manage and make sure that we hit our sensitive areas.
Right, because you do have those eyes. And so you may have like 30, 40 different construction entrances. So you probably have a team of people. It's not just a person doing something, because there's too many places to go. So if your team of people, you're saying, hit the construction entrances, hit any place that could be discharging to a creek or a wetland or whatever, and then work your way back out. And we're going to try to tackle as much of this. But then you've got to take all that information and somehow make it an inspection report for that week or for that discharge event.
Combining all of that. One of the other things that I always make sure that they are really aware of is if we've had a really big rain event, don't go get stuck. Like, don't get out there. If you start to slide, we're going to go ahead and pull that vehicle over to the side and you're going to walk, and maybe we won't be able to get to something. So we also have, that life or limb clause, but we're not going to do something that's dangerous. We also don't go do stormwater inspections when there's not other crews out there.
Sure. Because you can be out there alone. Like literally, you could almost start your own stormwater survivor program in some of these days where you got bear spray and you got the whole thing. I'm gonna go do my inspection.
Yeah, and you don't want to have that. You don't want to have that where you get stuck out there. There's nobody to come get you. And that can be really scary. And also, the worst thing in the world is we're telling all these folks, these are the rules you have to follow. And then we're the ones that go and get stuck. So that's what I always am like, okay, let's all just use our heads, because you do, because it is so much to inspect, you can sometimes get in a hurry.
Sure.
And we also have speed limits out on the right of way. So we're not generally allowed to go more than 15 miles an hour on the right of way. And so we have to abide by those speed limits. That's why I always tell everybody to kind of really hit the high spots.
Yep.
The other thing that's really hard on our project sometimes is like, we are out in the middle of a farm field.
Yeah.
And so the farmers out there, and they're grading their property, they're having track out onto the road. And so for me to kind of like help the crews understand that, like, once you signed up for this project, once we applied for this permit, this is now a construction zone. Please don't look out what's like happening over there. Sometimes, we could have run-on issues or something like that we will obviously pay attention to.
Yeah.
But it is very difficult for be like, well, why can they go do that? And we can't.
For sure. Those are hard things to justify a lot of times in our career. The other thing, and let's just talk about sort of where the industry is changing, because these projects are so linear and because they're so long, sometimes we do have helicopter assisted, or now what we're talking about a lot is drones. And how do you think drones are going to start to influence these linear project inspections?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because we actually, like, in my career have really, like, GIS, utilizing, ArcGIS online has been really important. We used to get these like set of maps and then just be like, go find stuff.
Yeah, you bet.
And now it's not really like that anymore. We can utilize drones for pre-construction photos.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, they can be done so quickly. And with such definition, you can literally zoom in on a rock.
For sure.
So I think that is really going to be helpful. You can kind of analyze slope with them. We also, the construction crews are starting to use them for potentially installing bird diverters and things like that.
Absolutely.
So if you don't know, for the folks that don't know what a bird diverter, it's just like in these mid spans where we have like high quality wetlands where you could have birds kind of flying through. Sometimes you'll see them related to like the airports and stuff like that. Either they're like a ball or something on it to kind of a light to identify that, hey, there's something here, please pay attention. The bird diverters are kind of something there to kind of deter the birds from landing on the line or flying into it, coming in contact, just another protected measure.
Yeah. Well, and I think with the technologies that are improving with that, there are now drone boats and stuff that do benthography, the depth of sediment on the bottom of something.
Oh, I don't know that. I just don't
like it. It could be a made up word, but whatever it is, it's like how deep the sediment is on the bottom of the pond. But they're also doing stuff like that for like radar and things and thermal, and being able to detect when snowmelt's happening or where you've got illicit discharges or whatever those things are happening. So I think drones are going to start to become a more prevalent thing. It also brings efficiency into it, right? Especially when you're on these linear projects, you can stand there and you can do a site walk in much less time with a drone, being able to visually see it. And then if you find a problem, you can go investigate it, but you're not having to walk out there to go find it.
Yeah, I think they're a great tool. I still feel like, just with AI and drones, we won't ever replace that. Like, we want to keep that, that inspector that actually goes in the field. Like, you want to.
Well, and there's judgment calls that need to be made, right? So, but I'm with you.
But to get into some of these like heavy terrain areas, and also you got to let the landowners know that you're doing this for sure.
You have the farmer out there with his 12 gauge trying to knock that thing down. Yeah.
So making sure that we're, again, notifying people what we're doing is very important. But I think the drone stuff is so important because, oh my gosh, we still do things just like, I don't know, what's the analog way or whatever, where you're just taking a photo here, taking a photo
right on the rain paper.
Oh, and it's just like exhausting. And then you have to, the part of that where is you have to bring that data in and then you have to organize it. So with a drone, it's so cool where you can just be like, you can hit marks on it. You can also implement into our GIS data where you can like click on a tower and you can see what it looks like. That's been super helpful for us when you can kind of part of the pre-construction project. We have so many projects we're working on that it's hard to get out in the field and look at every single one, which is a very important part of stormwater planning, is to actually like getting out in the field. And so it's crazy how stuff is just like evolving. I feel like we don't even know what's going to happen in 5 years.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, when you and I met, 15, 20 years ago now or whatever, we were in a different industry. We really were. I mean, compared to where it is now. And as these permits change and as the stakeholders change in these things, we're going to have to adapt and change with it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
All right. Tori, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of this PUDLEcast.
Totally.
All right.
Thank you to today's special guest. Join us again on the next PUDLEcast.